Parent Plus loans can create a lot of tension between the parent and the student who's going to college. Most parents may not be aware that the loan is in your name as the parent, and at best, it'll be a handshake agreement between you and your child to make sure that your child's able to repay. Today, we're going to discuss the 5 things that every parent must be aware of when taking out Parent Plus loans. What's going on, everybody? I'm Danny Sinowitz, the College Dude. If you haven't yet, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. We put out a ton of content when it comes to college planning, in addition to some loan planning. And feel free to like this video and share it if you find it useful. I'm sure somebody else will as well. So today we're going to discuss the 5 things that each parent should know about when it comes to Parent Plus loans. The first thing that you want to be aware of are the terms. So how do you actually qualify? In terms of qualification, there are really 3 high-level things that you must be aware of. The first is that you actually need to be the adoptive or the biological parent of the child who's planning to go to school. The second is that you cannot have an adverse credit history. And we're going to link to a video which is going to go into more detail about what an adverse credit history actually means as far as the Department of Education is concerned. And the third thing is that you need to be deemed eligible for other purposes when it comes to actually applying for financial aid. So for example, you need to complete the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, if you want to take out a Parent Plus loan. One of the other key terms to be aware of is just what we talked about in the intro. It's going to be in your name only as the parent. It's not going to be in the child's name. So legally, the child has no right to repay this actual loan. It's on you as a parent. I've seen it happen a number of times where a parent and a child maybe will have a handshake agreement, but there is nothing legally binding that child to actually make sure that they have to repay this loan. You want to make sure that you go into this process with you and your child knowing full well the criteria in which you guys are going to repay. I'm also going to be linking to this video so that you have a better understanding of if you do want to transfer a loan to a child's name, how to do so. However, you really want to be making sure that if you're going to do that, that you know what you're giving up. Having the Parent Plus loans, which are issued directly by the Department of Education, offer some tremendous benefits, which we're going to cover here shortly. But you need to be aware if you're going to be transferring to a child's name, the only way that you can do that is through a private refinance, and you will be missing out on some potential great benefits of keeping the loan direct with the Department of Education. One of the other things that you need to be aware of when it comes to taking out Parent Plus loans is how much you can actually take. And this is what gets a lot of parents into trouble and has created horror stories where people will call into shows like Dave Ramsey to tell them that they have $500,000 worth of Parent Plus loans. The reason being is that you can take out a Parent Plus loan across any number of your children, but you can also borrow up to the full cost of attendance. So what that means is depending on how much that child is actually getting in financial aid and how much the net cost can end up being, that net cost can be fully covered by a Parent Plus loan, assuming that you have all the other criteria met in which you can borrow properly. So for example, if you're going to a school which is $60,000 a year, and you're getting $20,000 in aid for your child between student loans, scholarships, and other ways in which he or she may be paying, that leaves a gap of $40,000 per year. Some parents may look at that Parent Plus loan and say, well, we can cover that, so we'll take out $40,000 this year and next year, the following, and for your 4th year. If you plan on doing that, you need to understand that that's $40,000 each year that you're accruing. As a result, we tend to see these larger balances with Parent Plus loans for many parents who maybe are not fully aware of what this means. You need to be crystal clear in understanding how much you're planning to take out for your child and understand what the repayments are going to look like. To follow up on that point, the other 2 things that are very important to understand are both the interest rate and any fees that are involved inside of a Parent Plus loan. For the 2023 to 2024 school year, Parent Plus loans are just under 8.05%. So that loan that you'll be taking out will be subject to that interest rate, and that interest rate will start to accrue immediately. You can defer payment, but the interest rate and the interest accrual will start right away once you take out that loan. The other thing that Parent Plus loans are known for, which have kind of gone away with other loans, but with Parent Plus loans have not, is the origination fee. An origination fee of 4 to 8%. And what that means is for every $10,000 that you take out, essentially $423 is going to be tacked on right away. So these types of loans can actually accrue interest, and with this added origination fee can add up quicker than most other loans would. You need to be aware of all the criteria by which this is taking place and understand that there could be an additional amount, and you need to understand that as a result, you could be seeing higher balances by the time that your child is done school as opposed to the original amounts that you took out. The second big thing that you need to understand is the actual repayment of these Parent Plus loans. The first type is the standard repayment. The standard repayment takes the total balance and then amortizes that amount over a 10-year time period. As a result, that's usually the highest monthly payment that a Parent Plus loan can be repaid upon. The second type is what's called the graduated repayment. The graduated repayment usually starts out a little bit lower, but eventually will go higher in terms of the monthly repayment. Every 2 years, that graduated repayment goes up. So it could be good for parents who may be in a position where they don't have the funds now, they need a lower monthly payment, but in the future feel that they can cover an additional increase. This is also over a 10-year time period if it is part of the graduated repayment plan. So between these two, these are going to be usually the highest monthly repayments inside of a Parent Plus loan. Another option that you can do is stretch it out in what's called the extended repayment plan and stretch that out over a 25-year time period. While it will lead to higher interest, it can also give parents a bit more flexibility in terms of the repayment. What you also need to understand is that you do need to have a minimum of $30,000 inside of a Parent Plus loan if you plan to use the extended repayment. Thankfully, that's not the only thing that's out there when it comes to repayments, which brings us to our third point, the consolidation options with a Parent Plus loan. So currently there are two options that I would say are out there when it comes to consolidation and repayment. The first one that we're going to discuss is actually going to be going away starting July of 2025. We did a video on what's called the double consolidation loophole not too long ago, and I'm linking to it here. But to quickly summarize, what this means is that a Parent Plus loan can be consolidated twice under the right circumstances, and there are the qualifications which that video will explain to you. But if you do it properly, you can be in a position where you can get onto any of the income-driven repayment plans that are out there, which means that it could be a situation where you could get onto the new SAVE program, which it's very advantageous in paying any type of federal student loan debt. The other options that are out there could be the pay-as-you-earn program or the income-based repayment program. So you're able to get into any one of those repayments if you properly do the double consolidation strategy. The other option that's out there is what's called the income contingent repayment plan. The income contingent repayment plan is one of the oldest that's out there for the different types of income-driven repayment plans, and it's also the least advantageous. However, it can make sense for the right types of parents when it comes to repaying this, and oftentimes it can be better than the actual standard or graduated repayments. So you want to give some consideration into what these payments could look like when you're out of school. Thankfully, there are a number of calculators online that you can actually calculate this information ahead of time. That way you're not left wondering what a monthly repayment can be when it comes time to actually repaying this after the 4 years of your child's undergrad education. The fourth big thing that we want to talk about when it comes to repayment are the forgiveness options. And forgiveness is typically going to be made or discussed when we talk about public service loan forgiveness, but there are some other ways in which you can either have your loans forgiven or have them discharged. Let's first talk through how loans are discharged. Unfortunately, this isn't usually one of the better or easier conversations to have, because if a loan is discharged, it usually either means the death of the child or of the parent who has that Parent Plus loan debt. The other way in which loans can be discharged is if there's permanent and total disability as defined by the education department. So if you have one of these things happen to you, understand that the Parent Plus loan debt can be discharged under those circumstances. There are some other nuanced ways in which these can be discharged, but you want to make sure that you are checking out the education department's website to determine if some things such as bankruptcy could be applicable to you. One of the big ways in which Parent Plus loans can be forgiven, though, is through public service loan forgiveness. So public service loan forgiveness is a great program, and it's actually been enhanced over the last couple of years. But specifically, what public service loan forgiveness can allow for is a 10-year forgiveness schedule. So long as you make 120 qualifying payments, you can have federal student loan debt forgiven. While it does include certain types of federal loans, it doesn't necessarily include a standard Parent Plus loan. It needs to be consolidated and then repaid into one of the income-driven repayment plans. Thankfully, the income contingent repayment plan does qualify as such, so you could eventually have your Parent Plus loan consolidated and then put onto the income contingent repayment plan and eligible for public service loan forgiveness. It can also be included if you utilize a double consolidation strategy. But again, that strategy, you need to make sure that you're getting that completed by July of 2020. There are some other standard forgiveness programs that are out there, or the standard forgiveness within some of these repayment plans, such as the income contingent repayment plan. You're at 25 years in which the amount that you still owe would be forgiven. Some of the other repayment plans could have it as early as 20 years. But you want to make sure that you have, again, plotted out how long it will be that you need to be making repayments. And importantly, you want to make sure that you understand if any forgiveness options are available to you. The fifth thing that we're going to talk about are the common mistakes that parents end up making. So the biggest mistake, and we've alluded to it already a couple times in this video, is many times parents don't know the actual repayment strategy. They're not aware of the different repayment options. You want to make sure that you and your child are sitting down at a computer, looking at the calculator beforehand. As you calculate your net cost of college, you're then able to determine how much you're actually taking out in a Parent Plus loan. If you're taking out $20,000 a year, or on average, you're going to be looking at an $80,000 balance. If you're looking at an $80,000 balance, you want to make sure that you use a calculator to determine what your repayment will be. That way you can plan around things such as retirement and being debt-free otherwise. You could also be looking at potential repayment options inside of an income-driven repayment plan, or you can be looking at things like public service loan forgiveness. But by knowing your repayment strategy ahead of time, you can take the guesswork out of it and be in a position that you can stay on track for your other goals. One of the other problems that I see is sometimes parents will vary the spouse who ends up taking out the repayment plan. In theory, this could work under certain circumstances, but where this becomes a problem is if you have a parent who potentially can qualify for public service loan forgiveness. It's based on the actual parent. It's not based on the spouse. So in other words, if one spouse is working in a public service field and they're eligible for public service loan forgiveness, but the other spouse works in the private sector or at a job that is not eligible for public service loan forgiveness, only the loans that the parent has who is part of the public service loan forgiveness can actually have them forgiven. The other parent needs to go on to the standard repayment schedule and can consolidate into an income contingent repayment plan, or can go into an income-driven repayment plan if using the double consolidation strategy. But they need to go on to those standard forgiveness options, and that can usually be anywhere from 20 to 25 years. The last mistake that we see a lot of parents making is that they stay on the standard repayment and aren't even fully aware of what the actual income-driven repayment plans are. Again, by avoiding this and making sure that you and your child are on the same page in terms of the repayment, this can help put you and your child in position to succeed rather than be in the position that so many parents are, who are in tremendous distress looking at six-figure debt in terms of Parent Plus loans that are pushing off retirement and pushing off goals of being debt-free and potentially creating some tension between the parent and the child. The last thing that you should be looking to do is having any type of situation where you and your child build resentment towards each other. But unfortunately, we've seen it happen where some financial situations can do that. Understanding how Parent Plus loans work before you take these out is critical to your success. If you have questions on that, feel free to reach out to me or to check out my website, www.thecollege, for more information on how to make sure that your college strategy is at its best. As always, this information is meant to be educational in nature and general in nature and is not meant to be taken as any type of specific actionable investment advice. Be sure to speak specifically to your CPA, your financial planner, your tax attorney, or anybody else who can help you make sure that you are on path for your plan specifically. I appreciate you watching to the end. Again, feel free to like this page, to share it, and subscribe to my channel if you have not yet already. And we'll see you in the next video. Until next time.